Greetings all, Dr. Beth here, and now we're looking at Module 6 of ED 621B, where you're expanding your assessments, Stage 2 of your backwards design unit. In this unit, the objectives for this module are to expand Stage 2, design authentic and differentiated, formative, summative, and performance assessments that are aligned with the learning outcomes objectives, and that are scaffolded to demonstrate progressive student mastery or achievement of the lesson objectives. Delineate each as to what kind of assessments they are, and we'll show you what that looks like in the unit example. Prepare to design instructional strategies and assessment tasks that support the language needs of second language learners. So you're looking at instructional strategies and assessment tasks for ELLs. Your tasks are to read, watch, and apply the resources provided in this module. Read and scan Taylor Nolan Classroom Assessment Chapters 1 through 5. Might be a little redundant, but it has information on assessments. Read Sousa and Tomlinson Differentiation and the Brain, Chapter 4. Complete Module 6 CFU, Checking for Understanding. Continuing with your lesson design template, your unit design template in Module 5. Design assessments that align with your objectives, that are directly related to your objectives, and that using language that families and students can understand. Also, you're going to use your note-taking graphic organizer to think about and add notes and ideas about alternative assessments and instructional strategies that you can use to assist English language learners' success with the content and language of your unit. Again, that's the preparation piece for Module 8. Remember, you're writing a multidisciplinary unit, and if you submit it in the Dropbox by the due date and time, you can make revisions without penalty and as usual. So let's see what's in Module 6. Okay, so you'll have a screencast here. You're going to have two screencasts. Here are the PowerPoints to them. You'll have the one that we're going to look at for the introduction to Module 6, and then the working with ELLs. Guiding questions for designing unit assessments. This is a very handy document to look at, and I'm going to open it because I want you to see it. I also want you to know that it kind of comes up in big print, and you can just reduce the print so you can look at it. But as you're designing your assessments, how are you going to assess their background knowledge, students' background and prior knowledge, their learning progress throughout the lessons, learning progress at the end of a lesson, understanding the big idea and during understanding, which is usually done through a performance task. How are you going to integrate disciplines? And that's performance tasks are actually really good for integrating disciplinary themed units. How can you use observational assessments, peer assessments, self-assessments? When will you use scoring rubrics? You might have other ones besides the culminating performance task rubrics. When will you use informal assessments? When will you use group and individual assessments? Keep in mind, all assessments are based on clear learning goals and objectives and clear ideas about the important work the students will do during the school year. They need to know it's important because you think it's important. You are the one that conveys importance. So, these are the guiding questions. There's a video on scaffolding. It's very short. It's a nice little video. 6 alternative forms of student assessment. Rubrics, writing tasks, presentations, discussion boards, blogs, self-assessment, interviews. All of these things can be used as assessments. So this is just for your information. We also have we're slow today. Types of infographics that can be used that you might enjoy taking a look at in terms of how to use infographics and how you would have your students provide assessments using infographics as alternative assessments. Okay, and then then the checking for understanding, and then here's your Dropbox for your Stage 2 work. The example, the Stage 2 material that you will be submitting. will be, I always have that in red because I just don't want you to forget it, your assessments. So, as I've said before, you're not going to worry about these, but you might want to think about them. So, for example, I've got a couple of ideas down here that I think are going to be culminating performance tasks. So I've just noted them here. You won't be graded on that, but it's just so that you keep your thinker going, so you keep your ideas going, so you're ready for the next class. So for your assessment, you're going to have pre-assessments. What are you going to use to access prior knowledge, find out what they know, all the formative assessments for this particular unit, and the summative assessments that I'm going to have that will give me a final look at what they've learned from what we've gone over, and other performance assessment. And you'll notice that these are performance assessments, but they are not the culminating performance task, but they require a combination of skills and a combination of knowledges that cross content areas. And then student self-assessment and reflection is also a way that we know students learn and need to learn and have the time to learn, that is to self-assess and to reflect on what they've been learning. And that's it. This is what you're going to submit for stage 2. Da-da-da. And then I think, no, that is not part of stage 2. This is for the learning opportunities. So that's all you have to submit for this module. But you will have to submit, you'll have to fill out the graphic organizer for working with ELLs. Let's go to expanding assessments and take a look here. So what are you doing? You say, what are we doing? You're determining acceptable evidence of learning. You're finding ways, multiple ways of assessing students' learning. Why are you assessing? You're assessing for planning and adjusting instruction. You're assessing for placement and targeted learning, for example, for IEPs, for some of you that are in special ed. Your assessment of expertise, if you do mastery learning, and some schools, some teams and some schools do mastery learning. Assessment for selection and comparison. And that norm reference testing you won't really be doing in your unit, but you will have access to it in terms of giving you information about your students and their skills and their abilities. You are doing it because you want to provide acceptable evidence of learning, both formative and summative. And if somebody says, how are they doing? Parent says it, principal says it, you can say, here, look, we've done this. Example of assessment types. So you have acceptable evidence, test quizzes, academic prompts, informal checks for understanding, performance tasks, observations and dialogues. Performance assessment is authentic assessment. It's a form of testing that requires students to perform a task rather than select an answer from a ready-made list. It can be combined with other kinds of testing. For example, the student may be asked to explain historical events, generate scientific hypotheses, solve math problems, converse in a foreign language, conduct research on an assigned topic. In fact, if you're a second language speaker and you had to take, or teacher, and you had to take a second language test, you had to do the converse in a foreign language as part of your evaluation. Then experienced raters are people that know what the rating scales are, judge the quality of the student's work based on that. Sometimes even the students themselves. And the students can design the performance assessment. I'm going over performance tasks a little bit just so you have an idea of what they are. And as I said before, they're very useful for integrating multidisciplinary units. They are needed as evidence of understanding because we have to see if the learners can apply their learning to various issues, problem, situation, and context. And I should put here outside of school or outside of the classroom context. 6 facets of understanding, explanation. If a student can explain it, if they can interpret it, if they can apply it, if they have perspective, multiple perspectives, or if they have empathy and they have self-understanding, these are the higher level ways of showing that they have learned something. If they can do those things, you know they've learned it. Establish real-world context, demands, messiness, audiences, and purposes. So life isn't neat. So there's a lot of negotiation when it comes to performance tasks. Should be written in GRASS format. Don't even worry about that right now. We'll do that in level C for the culminating performance tasks, and are evaluated using valid criteria indicators. I just went over these quickly, but if a student can do these things, they have learned, hopefully, that what they've been what they've been taught, what you've been teaching them. If they can teach it, use it, prove it, connect it, explain it, defend it, and read between the lines, they've learned it. And that's what the 6 facets of understanding are really about in a nutshell. Okay, I think you can read this on your own in the PowerPoint. Open-ended or extended responses, extended tasks, portfolios, and multidisciplinary performance assessments. So just so you know what they might look like, 4th and 8th grade students in writing and math using 3 methods: a portfolio, a best piece from the portfolio, and a set of performance tasks. So that's a multidisciplinary performance assessment. It includes a variety of assessment measures. And taking the perspective that assessment and instruction are inseparable aspects of teaching, so that you need to assess so that you can instruct, and that's from the teacher's perspective. Remember the objectives. We're going to go from the objectives: general knowledge about the Constitution, vote for candidates running for office, what they should know, what they should be able to do, and we're going to look at measurable objectives. Remember the SMART objectives? The objectives go to the assessment, and if they're SMART objectives, you can assess it. It is accessible. You can find ways to do it. If it's not a SMART objective, if it's too vague or general, it'll be really hard to figure out how to assess the objective. So if a student should have the general knowledge about the Constitution, acceptable evidence for their understanding and of their learning is to create a post-instruction survey, one way, asking classmates if they can remember 5 of the first 10 amendments to the Constitution and make a graphic illustration of their findings. So that's performance assessment, formative assessment, and a summative assessment all in one. How the Constitution affects our everyday lives. They should know how the Constitution affects their everyday lives. To show that they know that, they would write a 3-paragraph essay on how the language used to write the Constitution affects my life today. It's performative and summative. And there's your writing standard, because so often we have to ask them to write or to read in order to get an idea of how they're doing. The role the Founding Fathers played they should know the role the Founding Fathers played in developing the Constitution. How are you going to know that they know the role? They're going to fill a Venn diagram out about 2 of the Founding Fathers, and using that information, write a compare and contrast essay about them. So that's the way you're going to be able to measure the role the Founding Fathers played in developing the Constitution. And then they're going to be able to use these in their writing to explain or interpret or apply their understanding of it. So your next steps are to read, view, and apply the resources in Module 6. Using the UBD template you've already started, design the assessments. This is where you want to start differentiating assessments for a variety of learners. So think about how you can, even though we're not doing it yet, think about it. And if you can think about it now, write it down. Don't wait. Include assessments from the 3 categories. Actually, there's more than 3. Formative, summative, and performance, and pre-assessment and self-reflection. On the note-taking template, write some notes and ideas in response to the questions in the English and as a second language section. The completed graphic organizer will be collected in Module 8, and the screencast will be separate and will be included here. Complete and submit your work any time before the due date. If assignments are on time, you'll receive feedback and time for revisions. Don't send by emails, please. I check assignments on Blackboard. So far, no problems. Send questions as needed. So have fun looking at evaluation and assessment. And how it's related to what you're teaching and how intimately they are related. So with that, I'll get off. Have fun with Module 6. Don't forget to watch the ELL screencast that will be also posted here.